Welcome to Trails End 62 in our kitchen here in the Ozarks in Missouri. We're here at the end of the growing season. Our garden is about done. Not quite yet. We haven't had a killing frost yet or a hard freeze. Just a little light frost took the tops out of everything, but we still got some tomatoes. Not looking for them to get ripe, but they are green. And we've got quite a few green tomatoes left on there. We've got some peppers left on. And we've got some winter squash still left on. As long as the freeze holds off, then we'll still have some produce. But green tomatoes, you often wonder, what do we do with green tomatoes? Fried green tomatoes, that's always good. But what I've come across is a recipe for making green tomato salsa. And it's a probiotic fermentation process to make the green tomato salsa. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make some fermented green tomato salsa and use up some of these green tomatoes. We'll get started here. All right, first things first, we've gathered all our ingredients. As you can see, I've got some green tomatoes. I've got some red tomatoes, a little red tomatoes. I've also got some green peppers, and you can use other kind of peppers. Some of them call them used for jalapenos, whatever kind of peppers you want to put in there. And here we have some salt and cilantro. The recipe actually calls for fresh cilantro, but I'm using dried cilantro and it's worked pretty good, as well as the salt. I've got an onion chopped up here. I've got some lemon juice here. I've got some garlic here, and it calls for garlic cloves to be processed up with this, but I use granulated dried garlic and then just rehydrate it. Green tomatoes and apple cider vinegar with the mother, and that's important in order for this process to work. And we're going to be using a sealed process of the oxygen-free process for this, the probiotics fermentation. And we're going to get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut up our tomatoes. The recipe calls for 6 medium green tomatoes. However, my garden is not producing medium-sized tomatoes at this time. We're at the end of the season, so I've compensated a little bit. Got a few more tomatoes. Calls for one here that I've let ripen. Picked it green. Let it ripen. Got some bad on the front of it, so I'm again just going to use another tiny tomato there to go with it. The size calls for 6 medium-sized green tomatoes and 1 small red tomato, chopped fine. So all these are going to be done in a processor. So we've chopped up our peppers, we've chopped up our onions, we've got our spices ready to go, and our apple cider vinegar. What we're going to do now is we're going to cut up our tomatoes, put them in a food processor, and process everything. All right, well, here we have our tomatoes all cut up, and we put them in our food processor, and then we'll put on the lid. We're going to process these down just a little bit using our pulse. Pulse these up a little bit. Not too much, because we want to add some of the other stuff as we go. We'll put everything in. Got our tomatoes started there. We'll put in 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. And then here I have the salt. It's 2.5 to 3 tablespoons of salt. And then I use, it actually calls for 1/2 cup of chopped fresh cilantro, and I figured it out to be about 2 tablespoons per 1/4 cup of fresh cilantro. So 4 tablespoons of dried cilantro, and it will mix in with the liquid here and regenerate, rehydrate as it sets. So there's our cilantro. And then it says 1 small onion chopped fine. I like a little bit of onion, so this is probably more of a medium onion than a small onion. And then it calls for garlic. Alright, so the recipe actually calls for 6 medium-sized green tomatoes, 1 small red tomato chopped fine, 5 red jalapenos, 2 green banana peppers, 1 small onion chopped fine, a half a cup of chopped fresh cilantro, 3 tablespoons lemon juice, 4 cloves of garlic minced, and what I've done is used minced garlic, dried minced garlic, and I've rehydrated it, which makes, let's see what I have, 1/2 a teaspoon of minced garlic. The dried minced garlic equals 1 clove of garlic, so that's 4 cloves of garlic. And it was 2.5 to 3 tablespoons of salt, and then you have 2 tablespoons of raw apple cider vinegar with the mother, and we'll put that in here directly after we get everything done. As far as peppers go, I just use green peppers because I like green peppers, and I grow green peppers, so these are from my garden green peppers. And basically, as I do with most of my salsa, even when I make regular salsa, is I just put the green peppers in, I put however much looks right to me. So you'll just have to decide. I told you the recipe, so you can do it that way, or I just kind of decide how many green peppers looks good to me. Then we'll put the lid on, and we'll mix this up before we put the mother in. That is the apple cider vinegar with the mother. And the mother is just a part of the apple base that's put in the apple cider. It's what makes it do what it does in the process of probiotics and the fermentation. So we're going to mix all this up. I'm going to pulse it up here till it looks like what we want. And you want to get it to whatever thickness that you want, whatever consistency that you want. You can do it real fine. You can even cook this down if you want, and cook it on the stove a little bit to kind of on a low heat to remove any of the undesired liquid. But I like to keep mine fresh and alive, and we'll just leave it in there, and then we drain the liquid off when we eat it. Alright, that looks good. Let's see what we got here. You look down inside there. There we go. And that's the green tomato salsa just mixed up, as you can see there. Now what we'll do is we'll stir in the mother, the apple cider vinegar with the mother, and then we'll put it in our jars. Okay, you're going to add 2 tablespoons. First you need to shake up your apple cider vinegar. Make sure you get the mother shook up in there really good. We'll add 2 tablespoons. And stir it. Then we're ready to put it into the jars. Now I could just pulse that, but it's not the consistency that I want. I don't want to make it any more chopped up than I already have. So I'm just going to stir in the apple cider vinegar. Then we'll be able to pour it straight from here into our jars. Okay, here we are. Got them all mixed up, and we're putting them into our jars. I'm using pint jars here. The recipe says it will make 2 quarts, so this makes 4 pints. And then we have our lids for our fermentation, and our water blocks here, and we put these lids together. We put that in so that it just comes through to let the gases out. And as you can see, I've got a little bit, about a third water put on the outside of the tube so that it seals it. When the gases come out, it raises the tube in there and it kind of burps on its own. And so I don't have to mess with it. It just burps on its own. And the water creates a seal here so that no air gets in. And then we'll tighten these down. On all four of these, we'll put in a room temperature for a little over a week, no more than 2 weeks, but up to 2 weeks, and then we'll have our fermented green tomato salsa. Okay, that's our green tomato salsa, fermented, and this is the first batch that I made right here, fresh out of the jar. Been about 8 or 9 days, I think. Been in the refrigerator, and it's good. We like it. Till next time, from our house to yours, from our kitchen to your kitchen. God bless.